Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today as together with our special guests, we will cover some interesting aspects of driving the innovation at the fintech industry. The plan for our event today is to have around 45 to 15 minutes discussion, and then we can move forward to a QA session if we're going to have some great questions from our audience. So without further ado, let me introduce Robin Lantz and Markus Johansson, who are both senior design leads at Klarna. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Good to hear that. So, guys, could you introduce yourselves and say a few words about Klarna? And looking at my cheat sheet here, it's a leading global payments and shopping service company that you're working at currently.
Agree. Maybe I can start then. So my name is Markus Johansson. As you introduced us, I work as a senior design lead at Klarna. Klarna is, as you said, a company in the fintech industry where we're used to be focused on payments. Now we're more considering ourselves as a shopping company. Our maybe most popular proposition right now is that you can actually buy now and pay later and split your payment in four. I've been at Klarna for almost 2 years, and right now I'm leading the app domain and is the lead designer in that part of our company. So that's me. Handing it over to Robin.
Yeah, my name is Robin. I haven't worked at Klarna for that long. I actually joined in December, so I'm quite new to Klarna, but I worked previously in the fintech industry. I was heading the design department at a company called Tink, which is also a Swedish fintech company, but it's more into bank aggregation and creating a platform for that. But super happy to join Klarna, and I'm super psyched about this meeting as well.
Okay, so you've mentioned that actually Klarna, you're thinking of it as a shopping company. Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that fact, on this fact. Like, what exactly is Klarna? What kind of services are you proposing that are so popular among customers nowadays?
Well, I think that e-commerce and online shopping has been around for some time now, but I think it's still being a little bit like treated as a substitute for maybe brick and mortar, commerce, more or less. But what has happened recently with the pandemic is that it kind of has forced every one of us to do our shopping online, and I think that has speeded things up a little bit, and in general, the advantages of shopping online has becoming a little bit. It's almost grown into the benefits that you can actually see. I think that previous were it was maybe hard to maybe if compared to brick and mortar stuff, brick and mortar shopping, that it was hard to try out stuff. You kind of had to take maybe a bigger risk of buying with an online store, but as over time things have matured, I think as come looking at ourselves as a Klarna, we have proposed new types of products where we can offer users just convenient ways of paying for the products, maybe trying them out before they actually pay for them, and it's just like becoming more and mature, and like more and more users are seeing like the advantages of like just being able to shop online. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, that we at Klarna, we see a huge growth in people who wants to try us out for the first time, and yeah, the products, the services that we have seems to really resonate with them more or less.
And on Marcus' note here, I think with people starting to actually use services like Klarna, and for example, when you buy something at Klarna, then you go to the app and sort of handle the payment, you actually see sort of the synergies. You see that we have this PFM functionality, and you can actually sort of aggregate your bags. You can see the benefit of actually keeping both payments and your financials in the same ecosystem. So I think that is also something that people are in general much more inclined to notice during the pandemic, that they can actually see synergies in their finances because they actually utilize the digital services that are provided.
Got it. So I guess you could say that the transaction itself is evolving a bit, mostly because due to the digital nature. Like it's not, because when you go to a shop, like brick and mortar shop, you can really see the product you're buying. Like let's say I'm going to buy a cup, and I can check all its properties. And I guess when it's online, you never exactly know what you're buying. So maybe that provides what Klarna provides is additional layer of security or certainty to the end users, right?
Definitely, and I think that like that's what we're like, helping our customers with like today. That security, that possibility of trying it out before you're actually purchasing it, and I mean also considering how maybe infrastructure in general is improving with transportation of your goods, is just becoming a more convenient way of shopping in general, compared to how maybe users previously did it. Yeah.
Got it. So this brings me actually to the next question, which is also related to the evolution of the online transactions and the digital world in general. So in recent years, we've seen a huge boom of the fintech companies. And some notable examples include Revolut, N26, Robinhood, and of course, Klarna. And those companies have raised millions in investments and have users all across the globe. And the question is, why now? What happened that right now we see this huge movement in fintech?
I think it's one big thing that they do in common is that they actually reduces the threshold for the users to be able to try it out. And with the more digital maturity within the society in general, these are, I mean, just picking up a new service is quite easy. For example, signing up to Revolut and get a card or start trading stocks within Robinhood is such an amazingly easy sign up thing to do. So with that, there's definitely like there's no cost in trying it out. And when people are trying out different financial services that they might not have tried before, they sort of see the benefit. And I think like in the common denominator is the ease, the threshold reduction, I would say, and the ease of using these services.
I agree, and I think like if we would compare this situation that we're in right now to how it might have looked previously, is that even if you saw maybe new banking services, maybe even new banks, the value for the end user wasn't that big of a difference. It was very much a similar experience, or maybe similar value. And I think that is what's different today. just as Robin said, it gives more value to our users, but it's also so convenient and easy to get to just set it up and get started and try it out. And I think that's the wave that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, exactly. And to add to that, I think by trying it, you get hooked and you see the benefits. So I think that was sort of a necessity in order to just get the users. And I mean, you can say that bank experience is easy. You can say that a stocking platform is super easy, but it's not until you actually try it out that you understand how easy it is. And I think really we are there now when it comes to digital maturity and so on and so forth.
I mean, there could also be other factors as well, like considering, different target groups and generations, like becoming older nowadays, and they have maybe gotten used to digital services. So for them, it is not a big thing of trying out something new. So that could also play in as a factor that we're seeing, this uptick of new fintech companies becoming really big at the moment.
Yeah, I guess what could be interesting, as you said, is the generational shift. Because when I tried to introduce my mom to online banking, it was even 15 years ago, she was super, let's say, insecure about the whole idea of having her money somewhere online. It's not in a physical bank when she would go see the clerk, etc. So I guess that's nowadays the digital is so popular and so mainstream. It's easier for other services in the digital area to really become the thing among people, because the as you said, Robin, the threshold is not there anymore because it's the new normal, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And I think when if we would consider the volume of share users trying this out, when that are passing some marks, where maybe becoming so big, so it's not only the early adopters, I think then it's just spreading organically. Maybe you are talking with your mother or your grandmother about the benefits of having such service available in your phone. All of a sudden, they are also maybe trying to starting to try that out as well, and when we see this effect of just organic growth happening with these services.
This brings me to the next question, because you could say that the financial services didn't really change that much, because people still need to send and receive the money, they need to exchange currencies or use financing, and those, let's say, archetypes didn't really change much, because those services were provided by traditional banks or brokerage firms, probably over even the last centuries. And in this context, what would you say are the main pillars of success in the new wave of fintech services?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about the services hasn't changed when it comes to what they absolutely do. I mean, you get credit, you transfer money, even though you don't have to go with gold to your bank like you did 100 years ago or what.
I would love to do that, actually.
Yeah, that would be
my
nice.
gold and go to the bank.
Yeah,
I would dig that.
yeah, but I mean, because I think also that it's a little bit untapped, this market, in that sense. I mean, we do what we used to do, but in a digital context, it's much easier and all that. But we might haven't sort of really investigated the potential that the future withholds. I mean, right now we use it for payments, we use it for seeing your bank accounts and so on. But I think that there is something beyond that we don't see yet, like the magic or the silver bullet or something, like the smartness that we can actually utilize this digital service for is untapped yet, I would say. And we use it for like you said, the stuff that we have done for generations, but much faster and with much lower thresholds, and you don't spend any time at all actually doing all your errands and transfers. So yeah, I think that is something cool actually, that we might haven't really sort of seen what this is all about yet.
I agree, but and to Robin's point, that I think that the needs are probably still the same, because like we live in the same society. Like, you know, we still need to, like, you know, pay, do transactions, etc. Like those needs are still the same, but there's also, like, you know, some type of feedback loop that's happening very slowly. I think there's like a slow evolution happening in the background where, you know, we can, as a fintech company, can propose better suited products to our users that maybe is nudging their behavior slightly into a new direction, that maybe is creating a new behavior where we kind of pick that up as well, because, like, you know, we want to be a fast-paced and a company that's always like listening to our users and can help them in the best possible ways. Maybe that could help us to propose even new types of products. So that's the feedback loop that's slowly happening. In general, I think the needs are very much still the same. But as Robin said, like, you know, what the future might hold is probably, like, you know, even better products, even better services that's soon gonna be available for all of us when it comes to this industry.
It might even be that this evolution we're seeing or not really seeing that's happening, you know, in the background is actually the very change of the paradigm of money or currency, etc. I've seen, for example, the cryptocurrencies are tried to tackle this a bit. The very core that sits behind, oh, this is money, it's not your gold, it's fully digital, and maybe that is some disruption awaiting behind the corner.
Exactly. I mean, that's going to be so interesting to just follow and see what will happen with that. But like the potential upside for new products and services, value, anything, I mean, that's huge when it comes to that part of the industry, for sure.
And also with the sort of the smartness or the AI that you start to see within different fintech services, I mean, you can probably get a better or almost the same experience, like private banking experience in a digital context, instead of like using a private banking office where you get to sort of have to pay a lot of money to, or you just need certain like volume of money only to be there. I mean, I think sort of the democratizing effects that the digitalization do is quite cool. So you can actually, even if you are not Bill Gates, you can still utilize those kind of services. So I mean, it's going to be easier for normal people to understand money, to gain at the same way that for example private banking offices do.
Maybe exactly because what you said, that the threshold is gone.
Yeah,
that it's much easier to actually you don't need to understand the very concept of money or managing it. You just install an app, like they said, there's an app for that, and that's everything you need to do. So you also mentioned that it's not only the technology that's changing, but the customer behavior. And I wonder, which way does it go? Is it new services such as Klarna or other fintechs shape the activities, or it's the activities that actually shape the direction of the new product? So what's your take on that?
That's a good question. I mean, sometimes I mean, I'm gonna have a hard time answering that and be very specific if it's the one or the other. My experience, though, is that it's so different. I mean, I definitely like, seeing situations where there's might have been like company that was a little bit ahead of the time. They have proposed like, great products, great services, like the user wasn't ready for it though. And I think it's all, sometimes it can also be the opposite, like, the behavior is there, but maybe rules and regulation is stopping a lot of companies to actually, propose or build these new types of services. So, and I think that is maybe something that's a little bit unique to the situation that we're in, considering that we're a fintech company, we're handling people's money. There needs to be a lot of rules and regulations and safety in place, so that we earn people's trust and we follow when we follow all of that. But that could also sometimes, sometimes that could also be like, a very rigor and a slow process, that even if it's quite crystal clear for you that if we could only like build such a service or something like that, that would instantly just like, provide value for our users. Maybe that's not the case. I mean, we sometimes need to follow like we definitely need to follow the rules and regulations. That's super important.
And
So, yeah.
out of curiosity, because I can imagine that officially Klarna is operating as a bank, right? Because you're handling all the money, the transactions, etc. And I think it also might be the case that the rule of law is also lagging behind the technology. How do you deal with that? We've got all this amazing technology, with amazing designers crafting great experiences, and yet we come to this point like when the lawyer said, "Oh no, you can't do that. That's illegal, or that's not yet supported." How do you go around this?
I mean, that is of course the case sometimes, but I think also like you need to be smart about it and have it in sort of the scope when you design to know about these kind of things, like how does the PSD2 regulation works. And to be frank, I think actually, or to be honest, I think actually the laws are not that. I mean, they're starting to actually catch up a little bit. I mean, just with European Union doing the PSD2 is absolutely amazing in many ways, and sort of enables what we can craft sort of the experience that we do within many fintech companies. And of course, it's quite, I would say it's more about that the law is a little bit immature yet. So maybe not the banks and sort of the big ones that should provide the APIs hasn't come up to a certain standard yet. But apart from that, I think sort of the laws are maybe correlating with the current trend in fintech as well. Actually, in Europe at least. But yeah, I really think so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could only agree, and there's also a scale to this. I mean, when we're handling some parts of our products that maybe is more related to credit and that stuff, I mean, then we need to like, thread very carefully. But there are also other parts that are not so equal affected by rules and regulations, and I mean, obviously you need to follow them all the time, but it's more, as Robin said, trying to work with them, not against them, like trying to think about how does that like maybe affect end user experience, or how can we still make it clear or make it feel secure, or making sure that they are in control and own their data and all of that, while giving them also the option to do the things that they want and not breaking any rules or anything. Yeah, but it's just I guess the main idea is just as Robin said, trying to work with the rules and regulation.
Yeah, and keep them keep them in as early as you can in the design process. I mean, know the rules before you design.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it makes me wonder how good are the lawmakers with the digital technology, because I can only wonder that in the future there might be more policymakers or lawmakers, or even, I don't know, even lobbyists. I'm not sure what's the process in each country for that, but that the ones that will really be great at the digital products. So you would have this kind of digital lawyer that you might maybe see in regards to GDPR or something like that, when the border between the physical world, which was governed by law through all the centuries, and the laws of the digital world, which is pretty new, is going to what would be the great word for that? I don't know, overlap a bit.
Yeah, that might be the case. I mean, overall, in general, with digital in general becoming more sophisticated, we are extending out our infrastructure and adding a lot more capability in terms of AI and that stuff. I mean, it might be that we're, sometime in the future, you're having a chatbot to get advice on how to act on maybe some legal questions and that stuff, and it's just becoming more and more, as Robin said, democratized, and it's available for all of us to just use those types of services, for sure. I remember I was at one, I think it was a meetup sometime, where there was this lawyer who was talking about us, and he was explaining to us that if you're comparing, what's happening in, the digital world, where you have a lot of companies building new types of products and services, and comparing that to lawmakers, there's always going to be this lag happening, where the digital world will always try to speed up things, but when setting the rules and regulation, it has its pace. It takes a little bit more time, but it's also important that it maybe takes some time also, that we are considering all the ifs and buts when it comes to this. There's definitely some type of relationship between those, that when maybe the popular opinion is becoming so big that everybody wants to enable this or have this as something that you could use, maybe that could change the previous rules and regulation that has been set, but maybe was done in lack of context on how maybe the future was developing and is shaping new types of products and services.
Yeah, and one thing I think is very, very important here, and one thing that we should really consider as designers, is the users, the common users, everyday users, will probably not be updated on the laws and what's happening. They don't care about PSD2, they just see a bank app or a payments app. So I think it's up to us to be educational and learn and make them learn about this in an easy and digestible way, because it's not easy and we shouldn't expect from the users to be super updated when it comes to laws and regulations. That should be just something that we educate them about in the sense of the app and so on. So I think that is a very important factor when it comes to designing with laws and regulation in mind.
And I think that's a really good example, because I think one thing that probably most of us could relate to is like, reading the end user license agreement. Like, how many of us actually does that? And that's just like one example where, like, shouldn't it be like something, something there instead of that is explaining it, like a lot easier for our users to just like understand, like, how can I use this? And wouldn't that like be more helpful for our end users, that they have more understanding about that? But I think that's just like one example that, like, maybe when we have some type of disconnect, that these two worlds are not like meeting each other. It's still like very siloed in some ways.
Okay, so I guess basing on your answers, what we need is we need designers in the lawmaking policies to make them
maybe
better. Yeah.
someone that actually sort of narrates down to its core and can explain it in a good way. That maybe it's designers.
Yeah.
So that huge opportunity to designers. So jumping to design. Since you're both senior design leads, that makes me interested in your approach to the design in general. But before we jump to that, one last question from the more general aspect of the fintech. In your opinion, what are the biggest opportunities and threats that might shape the future of fintech?
I mean, I think the biggest opportunities, I mean, I think that maybe comes down, for at least from my perspective, maybe two things. I mean, I think like in the next couple of years, I think we're going to see some amazing, tech in general, just like being more available for all of us, like with AI and like what you can do with data. I think that is going to, create some really interesting services. I also expect that, the pandemic is a tragedy for sure. But it has speeded things up a little bit, that, some types of behavior that we knew were around the corner, we were just like waiting for them to happen, has speeded things up. And I think we're seeing new types of behavior, like and how that might affect us is definitely like, if you would consider shopping. I think like how people are going to shop in like from now on, it's mainly going to be online. Like the upside is so big, it's so convenient, and I think that is also like, is going to create definitely some new opportunities for us and for other companies as well. That's going to be the main behavior.
I agree to Marcus to a lot of extent, and also what I think or hope is that we see fintechs utilizing the sort of the holistic image of your finances in all aspects. For example, when you shop something, if you know sort of the goods that you buy and sort of the cash flow of the users, and sort of marrying sort of in that moment, sort of marrying all these different aspects of your finances, and seeing everything in a holistic way in all different sort of financial decisions. I think if someone would do that, then it would be a very, very good thing for the users. And I like seeing credit checks when you actually pay something, and doing it in real time and doing it at the behalf of the users. I think like when we come to that point, it's going to be a very, very good experience for the users, and sort of keep them understanding of their finances and how they spend money, and the sort of the value of things, and doing that in the right moments. I think that would be sort of when we'll reach the next level in fintech.
Yeah. And now we're cherry picking because me and Robin were quite optimistic people, so we're trying to look at like the bright future. Like when it comes to risks, ooh, that's a hard topic. I mean, I guess like one risk would be. I mean, I maybe this is very far out there, but I mean, considering that we're dealing with people's money, it feels like it needs, people need to trust these companies I mean, for them to exist overall. Like if someone would really screw up, I think that would just like maybe push the evolution a little bit forward into the future, and maybe the majority of users will lose their trust of trying out new services. Maybe that could be a risk, that there is like this one company who doesn't treat their users with respect to maybe the data or the transaction. Maybe that could create some type of bump in the road or something. I mean, that it like looking back in history, I mean, I think we have seen some examples happening with that, for example, in social media. So I don't think it's impossible for, happening in our industry as well.
Mm-hmm. And I guess another factor could be, I don't know, financial crisis that's similar to the one we had in 2008. It's not something directly probably driven by the companies. I guess it might be more tied to the idea of capitalism itself, but it's probably something we need to watch out for in the future.
Definitely. Agree.
Okay, so now we can move to some more optimistic themes of this discussion. So guys, you're both our designers with loads of experience. And my question to you is, in your opinion, how has the designer position changed compared to the beginnings of your careers? How do you see this role of a designer and design in a modern, innovative service company?
Wow, that's a good question. It's changed a lot. I mean, just look, if I take myself as an example, I started out in advertising, doing digital flash campaigns in 2007. So that's what I come from. But I think sort of the thing that we did back then was trying out technology basically for marketing purposes. So I mean, the core is, in essence, is still the same. You used, when you tried new sort of innovative ways of communicating online and sort of distill that into a marketing campaign. It's quite far-fetched often. Like it ran for 3 weeks and you spent half a year working on it. So it wasn't a very sort of iterative design process. It was more one-offs. And then I think sort of the market evolved into more web-based services. Companies started to understand that the value of digitalizing their business, and therefore the complexity in digital product grew. And therefore designers needed to be part of that process. And I mean, when the core business later became sort of the whole business, and that was digital, then designers certainly needed to be very understanding of that process. And later years, when most designers that I know start to work at startups, then the actual product was often something digital, and therefore the designers were part of the whole process when it comes to ideation and implementation. So that is sort of my take on it from 10-15 years of working in this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's changed a lot. I mean, I think it's just as Robin said, like it came from you work as a purely as a designer. Like, maybe you were leading a little bit more towards like UX, being uh, focusing on how things work, or maybe it was a little bit more visual. But that was like, your main task. But now it's like you kind of need to understand like the dimensions of the thing that you're working on. Like, what's the business logic? Think about how do we create revenue from this? How do we match that with like providing value for our users? How do we make this clear? How do we follow the rules and regulation? And like, everything, like all these input needs to be added into your thought process, so you can like, think about this optimal way of guiding the user to some type of end goal in mind. So I mean, I think that it's becoming a lot more complex to work as a designer today. You have to have a lot more knowledge about the thing that you're working on, the business side of things, the user side of things, the other side of things. So yeah, but I think like maybe I'm speaking for both of us, Robin. Like I think we like that development though. I think it's a super fun field to be in, and it's really fun to work as a product designer nowadays.
Yeah,
I really agree.
Go on, Robin.
No, I was just also adding to what Marcus said. Also, we are part of often product teams, which are very technical. So that aspect as well. I mean, that you need to understand the technology and have all the input that you can get from developers. I think that aspect also is super important, as well as sort of the business side.
I guess you could say that nowadays we're much closer to those rocket scientists than to people, painting pretty pictures that appear flashing on the internet, on the websites, asking you to claim your free iPod, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, hopefully at least. Some people think we're still doing the construction or the rocket gifts, but yeah, I can actually argue that we are closer to what you said, like the rocket engineers, but yeah, not as far as those. Still.
Yeah, and I never got the free iPod, so that I feel that's a scam. Okay, and you, Robin, mentioned working together with the developers. So as far as I know, the teams at Klarna are operating in a system based on a Spotify model, which you could say has revolutionized the agile approach in tech organizations. And I wonder, what's your take on it? How do you find the experience, or maybe you have made any changes to the mentioned product delivery framework?
I mean, I could add some thoughts into that. So I think that what is amazing with this model that Spotify proposed is that they're really optimized for speed, and they enable the teams to, take ownership and responsibility of the things that are driving forward. And I think that is like immensely, improved a lot of things. We have a similar structure as well, where we are also a very flat organization, where we are giving a lot of responsibility to the teams to push things forward, and that has created some amazing results within our company. I think, one reflection on, a process is not a silver bullet in any case. There are also like, some cons with that model as well. there can be struggles that to making sure that teams are collaborating with each other. And I think that has also been a lot of criticism to the model that Spotify is running as well, that you are creating really fast and efficient teams, but when it comes to like cross collaboration, then it becomes a little bit of a struggle, because there might be unique culture or a unique rhythm that's being set in place by teams, and it might differ a little bit when you're looking really into how different teams are operating. To be frank, I think from my experience working with different models and processes, it's still though one of the most efficient models I have had the opportunity to work with. So I really enjoyed that. It's not I don't think it's a one size fits all. I think it's probably working quite well for some companies, but maybe for other companies it's not. So yeah, and I think like on a maybe on a philosophical level, it's like to create this like very functional company, it comes down to like definitely that part, but it's also comes down to culture in general. Like that you have a culture where people feel invited, feel that they feel it's fun to contribute. So it's like it's those two things that needs to be in place, some type of foundation of how we should work together, but also like the legacy, the culture that needs to be in place for it to like also like make all the pieces work together, I guess. Yeah. And what's really fun with that, then also going back, is that it enables us as product designers to work with other competences. And I think we all can agree upon that, when you're sitting together, maybe with an engineer or maybe some other competence, sometimes like, some magic can happen where, it's you're vibing with that person, you just like, having a great conversation, and it's just like, times is flowing so fast, and you can like almost like feel the improvements happening in those situations, and that's really cool when that happens. So I think that's really good, that we should try to like create more and more of those moments where we have this magical moments between like colleagues happening.
So it's
I agree with Marcus there, and also like the reward of actually seeing your design live and start iterating on a sort of the actual design in a live setting is very much something that I think is super beneficial for the design process, instead of having these lengthy rounds. So yeah, I think that is also something that is key in this model, which is it enables very much indeed.
Mm-hmm. I guess a good take from that could be that I guess many companies nowadays have adapted this model, but in every company you can see like differences. For example, adapting to the needs of this company, or maybe to the culture they're building. And maybe the end point is that this framework itself is also evolving, and maybe some company will, I don't know, hit the jackpot or get to the next golden area of collaboration, when you will have all the benefits, which are the fast-paced and experiment-based environment, being data-driven, having different experts in the team. But in the meantime, you will also don't have issues related, for example, to the teams being silos or the knowledge sharing, etc. Because to my experience, those are the main disadvantages, because you can have meetings with other teams and the demos, etc. But in big companies such as Klarna, for example, I can imagine like how many meetings you can have just to be aware of what other teams are working on. Like a human cannot do this.
Definitely. I mean, it can definitely fill up your calendar. And that's such a common trap to end up in, that it's only becoming, information flow and not so much work happening. And I think that's also can be a little bit scary sometimes if we're going back to being a designer. Like it's to be fair, I think that just like reflecting back on my career, that is something that you need to be careful of. Like, this more senior and maybe the bigger of leader you're becoming, the more meetings you're getting invited to, and the less time that you get to actually design stuff. So there needs to be some balance, definitely, to that. Obviously, how you are progressing in your career might be that, like, your ways of working is also changing a little bit, especially if you're becoming more as a leader. Then it's maybe supporting people a lot more than doing individual contributor work. So that's just like the natural change of things that's going to happen. But I mean, I always been like, advocating for that, like, you should, it's good if you can stay a little bit grounded still, though, in actually designing stuff, because then you know how it is. So yeah, just I know that I always have that thought in the back of my head, like, I need to block off things so I actually get to work on some stuff as well, not only meetings.
You need to say no to work so you can actually work. I guess that's a great thing about design nowadays.
Exactly.
Okay. So the next question is also related to let's say the models or systems you're operating in. So the question is, in your opinion, what are the main factors of driving innovation at Klarna? Maybe do you have some processes that support innovation on a systemic level? Is it more driven by individual contributors? Or maybe do you have some specific decision-making framework? How does it work for you guys?
Ooh, I mean, that's such a hard question to answer.
That's why it's the last one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there are multiple things. I mean, I think it even comes back to, that we hire the right people. We're very picky at like, finding that are people that we think are suited for it, because there's also been like, some quantifiable measurements being done that, like, if we look for some certain characteristics within our company, they have been in general more successful. So that's a huge important part, that like we find the right personality and an experience for the people that we're hiring. In general, I think also, like, Klarna has been around, where is it now, for like 10 plus years, something maybe like that. I think there's like, been from the start probably a culture in place where you have, where you kind of encourage speed, and the speed in general. It might sound as like it's a small word, but it is like, laying out a foundation for multiple things to happen. That we want to learn insights as fast as possible. We don't want to, end up in analysis paralysis. I mean, we're more keen to taking a bet and see what we can learn, and maybe iterating on solutions to pushing things forward. Like in general, also, like, our operating model has been formed so that, we don't have that many levels at Klarna. And the decision doesn't need to, like, be escalated to the top to make them happen. We have put in a lot of trust to our teams to be responsible and taking charge of the things that they want to change and optimize. So, I mean, obviously there's a core idea that we believe that, that's a healthy company, and that's how things should work. And that's more or less like just then influencing everything that's happening on the operational side. That we believe that this is a good way to run a company. But I haven't bumped into any. I mean, obviously we have rituals and rhythms and ways to follow up and report and inform, creating information flows and that stuff. But there's no like hidden decision matrix in place. It's more a belief on, like, openness, transparency, and speed. That's making things happen. Yeah. Sorry, that was probably a very fluffy answer, but
Sounds very good. Robin, do you have anything to add to this?
I think Marcus' answer was really good there. I'm just nodding my head and agreeing with Marcus there.
Okay, so I guess there is no magic button that says, "Oh, generate me a great decision and everything will go right."
No secret sauce.
Okay, I guess you could also say that even if you have a great like evidence-based decision, and for some reason it turns out that it doesn't work the way you intended, it's also a learning experience. So I guess this also could be a part of this experimentation culture or whatever's driving the innovation at many of modern companies, right? Because without possibility of failure, you cannot also have the success in the end.
Exactly. And I mean, when everything is digital, it's just so accessible to see how things are performing. Mm-hmm. So the data is so easy to just look at and see how things are going. Yeah, for sure. And I think, history also shows that, the most successful companies that we have seen, like, the top 10 biggest companies, like, it are the Googles, it are the Facebooks, and like that is how they have run their companies. And so it has, like, that track record has been proving quite successful. Yeah.
Okay, so we need to fail in order to grow, I guess.
Yes.
Or at least not be afraid to fail. That might be the better comment on that.
Exactly. Okay. We aim to fail. That's it.
Yeah. But do our best not to fail at the same time. Oh, things are complicated nowadays. Okay, guys, let's take a look at the questions from the audience. So we have a question from Tomasz, and he would be interested to learn more about the recent push into live streaming shopping. And he says that Klarna has been recently on the forefront of this trend. And he also wonders what are the challenges related to that when it comes to UX and design area.
Yeah, we have actually started to investigate and to actually deliver a live streaming shopping experience. I think it was our CEO said that live streaming is the new going to the mall together with your friends. I think it was quite funny. But I mean, also with the pandemic now, I think live streaming is something that is super interesting in investigating and see like how we can integrate that into our business. And yeah, we have run a few live streaming events, and I think we're on the track to run a few more. So when it comes to the challenges, I think that, I mean, there's plenty of different sort of companies doing live streaming as a foundation that you sort of jack into. And I think we need to investigate like how exactly this is going to work in our, if it's in our app, or how exactly live streaming is going to sort of be the Klarna way of doing it. And I mean, we're just in the early days when it comes to live streaming. So I think we haven't really sort of fully investigated this area. And but I truly believe that this is something that will be a bigger part of our experience.
Mm-hmm. So let's hope that during this live stream, someone will also be interested in Klarna. Let's see how this one works out.
Yeah.
Okay. Marcus, do you have anything to add to this answer?
No, I think Robin put it for quite well. I mean, the main idea here is that we find the technology really interesting, and we think that it's tapping into a need where, you know, people want to find out more about the products that they're interested in, and live stream can fill that need. Obviously, there are also super interesting other opportunities with live stream, you know, opening up the possibility to having a dialogue with someone who can actually like feel the actual product that you might be interested in, not having a monologue where you're just like, you know, pushing out the information and that person is not able to respond. So I think we're definitely interested in that, and investigating more into it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So look at this amazing glass. It can be for $4.99.
How does it feel?
Yeah, I can even rotate it.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Okay. So let's move to the next question from the audience. This one is from Martin, and he's curious about what do you consider as the biggest threat for your business? Is it being acquired by big banks, change of the law due to lobbyists to limit fintech evolution, or change of humans' habits in case of cash flow or savings?
It's a hard question, I would say. I mean, like the biggest threat is probably not something that you have thought about in advance. I mean, maybe a pandemic could be a huge threat if you're in the wrong business, or not like another business. But I mean, I think it could be anything from, like Marcus talked about previously, about security breaches, or like the things that other big company has sort of made bumps to their growth. So I think definitely like the biggest threat is threats that we can't think of, to be honest.
I agree. I mean, the examples being mentioned here, I think that is not something that we're so, you know, are not considering us as a risk. Like big banks, we feel that, like, you know, we bring something unique to the market that's very different from big banks, and I don't think that, you know, lawmakers as well. I mean, it's interesting to just like look back what has happened recently as well. I mean, it's funny to just reflect. I mean, there's definitely sad stories happening into that, but just look at the stock market and what's happening with GameStop and that stuff. I mean, it's it just feels that, you know, the majority of people now are so used to using like digital services, and there are just like so many interesting things happening in general. I guess the scary part is the unknowns, just as Robin said. Like, who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe, I mean, like the I have no idea. I can't even come up with anything.
I guess this is the scariest part of the black swans concept. So those great events that change the whole industries, and the interesting part is that you cannot foresee them at all.
No.
That makes them the black swans. So it's really hard to, you know, think about things. Oh, of course, we might have some other stuff that we already went through, but I guess the most interesting things are the ones that are ahead, and we cannot even think of them at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And they are there. We know it.
Yeah, crawling in the shadows.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. So this was the last question from the audience. Okay, now it's go. That was great. I'm delighted by our conversation today. I hope you also had a good time, and thank you once again for sharing your expertise and knowledge with the audience. And that would be all. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Daria.
Thank you. Yeah. See you.